I left college to support my family when my dad lost his job. And now, 8 years later, I'm still covering their expenses while working in a warehouse. My parents won't let me return to school because they rely on my income. I'm a 28-year-old man, and this situation is driving me to the edge. I'm desperate for advice because I don't know how to move forward. Here's the background, and I'll keep it concise, though there's a lot to unpack. I'm the eldest of 3 siblings, with my younger brother Ethan, 20, and my sister Ashley, 16. Growing up, money was always scarce, but we managed, and my parents emphasized education. Or so I believed until everything fell apart when I was 20. I was in my 3rd year of college, majoring in computer science with a 3.7 GPA, thriving academically for the first time. I dreamed of graduating and becoming a software developer, even doing freelance gigs to cover my costs. My parents were proud, always saying I'd be the first in our family to earn a degree and succeed. But then my dad was laid off from his factory job of 15 years when the plant closed and moved overseas. At the same time, my mom's hours at her retail job were slashed, and our family's income plummeted by about 70% overnight. I still remember the day my parents called me into the living room, my mom in tears, my dad looking broken, explaining that I needed to leave college and work full-time to help the family. They said Ethan was still in high school, Ashley was just starting, and I had to step up as the eldest. Heartbroken, I agreed. What else could I do? They were my family. So, I dropped out mid-junior year, moved back home, and took a warehouse job paying $15 an hour. It wasn't much, but it was steady. It was supposed to be temporary, maybe a year until my dad found work, but 1 year became 2, then 3, and I got trapped in this cycle. My dad eventually found a part-time job that paid far less than his old one, and my mom's hours never fully recovered. So, I stayed at the warehouse, lived at home, and gave most of my paycheck to cover household bills while my dad job hunted and my mom picked up extra shifts. Meanwhile, Ethan excelled in high school, and my parents were thrilled, always talking about his college plans. When he graduated 2 years ago, he got into the same state university I attended, and my parents were determined to ensure he finished his degree, unlike me. The catch? They couldn't afford his tuition and dorm costs alone. They asked me to help cover some of Ethan's expenses, framing it as a short-term thing until they sorted out financial aid or scholarships. I agreed because I wanted Ethan to have the chance I didn't, and I trusted it would be temporary. So I started sending $800 a month for his dorm and meals, a huge chunk of my income. But I thought it was worth it. That was 2 years ago, and I'm still sending that money. Ethan's now a junior, just like I was when I dropped out, and my parents expect me to keep paying until he graduates next year. But what stings is that no one talks about me returning to school. It's like my dreams don't exist anymore. Last month, I mentioned taking night or online classes to finish my degree, and my mom acted like I was selfish, saying we couldn't afford for me to cut my hours with Ethan's costs and Ashley starting to plan for college. My dad agreed, suggesting maybe in a few years, but it felt like they were brushing me off. That's when it sank in. They don't see me going back to school as an option. I started resenting the situation, though I feel guilty because Ethan didn't cause our family's financial mess. But last week, something pushed me over the edge. At a family dinner, Ethan was home from college, talking excitedly about a tech internship he's lined up for next year and how it'll boost his career. My mom was beaming, praising his intelligence and future prospects. I snapped and said it was great that Ethan gets a career while I'm stuck in a warehouse forever. My mom got defensive, saying I was unfair and knew the family needed me. Ethan looked uneasy and tried to redirect, but I pressed on, pointing out how they found money for Ethan's college but not for me to finish mine. My dad got furious, shouting that I was ungrateful and selfish, that they had no choice back then, and I should be proud of helping my family instead of complaining. I yelled back that they didn't sacrifice their futures. I did, and maybe they could have found other solutions if they tried harder. It turned into a massive argument. Everyone shouting, my mom crying, Ashley glued to her phone watching videos, and Ethan trying to calm things down. It was a mess. Now I'm seriously considering telling my parents I'm done paying for Ethan's college. It feels harsh, but I've sacrificed enough. If I stop sending the $800 for Ethan and the other $800 for household expenses, I could save enough in 2 years to quit my job and return to school full-time. I could finish my degree and build a real career instead of staying in this dead-end job. Part of me thinks my parents should figure out Ethan's tuition themselves, but I keep questioning if I'm being fair. Maybe they had no choice when I was 20, and I should be grateful for helping my family. Yet I'm angry they didn't explore other options, like Ethan taking loans, attending a cheaper school, or working part-time. It feels like they decided I'd sacrifice my future, and now they expect me to keep doing it without acknowledging what I lost. I'm torn, worried I'll regret any choice I make. Any advice would be appreciated, because I'm lost. Update 1. Thank you all for your responses to my original post. Your blunt feedback about my parents taking advantage of me was tough, but eye-opening. After reflecting over the weekend, I've decided to stop paying for Ethan's tuition after this semester. Some suggested cutting it off immediately, but since Ethan's mid-semester, I don't want to disrupt his term. I'll give my parents 2 months' notice, with December being my final payment. I spoke with Ethan first to explain my decision, wanting him to hear it from me and gauge his feelings. Yesterday, I drove to his college and took him to dinner off campus for privacy. I nervously explained that I want to return to school and need to stop funding his expenses to save for it. I emphasized that this isn't about him and that I'm proud of his success, but I can't keep delaying my life. Ethan was quiet at first, processing it, then said something unexpected. He's felt guilty about me paying for his college, knowing I dropped out, and has wondered if it's fair but didn't know how to raise it without seeming ungrateful. He's noticed I seem unhappy and stressed at home, never talking about my own goals, just work and family duties. He admitted he didn't realize how much I was sacrificing financially and feels bad our parents put me in this position. Ethan said he's been considering a part-time job anyway, with his internship next year, for extra money and experience. He's open to student loans to cover what I've been paying and doesn't want me stuck in a job I hate because of him. I got emotional because I hadn't expected his support. I'd assumed he took my help for granted, but he's been aware and conflicted too. I wish I'd talked to him sooner. Ethan asked what our parents said when I mentioned returning to school, and when I told him they dismissed it, he got upset, saying it's unfair they don't support my goals and expect me to be the family's financial crutch. We talked for 3 hours, and he fully backed my decision to stop payments and return to school. He's meeting with financial aid this week about loans and looking for a campus job to cover costs. I feel much better after talking to Ethan, but I'm dreading telling my parents this weekend. I know they'll be furious given their reaction last time. I'm planning to present it as a final decision, not a negotiation, to avoid another fight. But I'm not optimistic. Some of you asked about my living situation. I'm considering moving out for my mental health and independence. I've researched apartments and could afford a small one-bedroom if I stopped sending $800 monthly. It'd be tight, but worth it to escape the constant pressure and guilt. Some suggested asking my parents to repay the roughly $80,000 I've contributed over 8 years, but I don't think that's realistic or worth the conflict. I just want to move forward, not dwell on the past. I know some think I'm too soft on my parents, but I don't want to burn bridges if I can avoid it. I'll update after talking to them. For the first time in years, I feel hopeful about my future, thanks to Ethan's support and your advice. Update 2. I spoke with my parents yesterday, and it went as badly as I feared, maybe worse. I'm still reeling and need to share what happened. I went to their house at noon on Saturday. They seemed glad to see me initially, as we hadn't spoken since last week's fight. My mom made lunch, and we chatted casually. I was nervous about bringing up the college payments when my dad mentioned Ashley's strong junior year in college plans, saying they hope she gets scholarships but expect me to help with her expenses too, like I have for Ethan. It hit me that they're planning on me funding Ashley's college for another 4 years, extending this cycle for 6 or 7 more years. That pushed me to speak up. I said I needed to discuss something serious, explaining that I've been reflecting on my future and want to finish my degree. My mom looked anxious, saying we'd already discussed this and it's not a good time financially, but I cut her off, clarifying I wasn't asking for permission or support. I announced I'd stop paying Ethan's college costs after this semester to save for school full-time. I explained calmly that I'm unhappy at the warehouse after 8 years and need to invest in my career while I'm still young. They were silent briefly. Then my dad erupted, yelling that I'm selfish and ungrateful, abandoning my duty to Ethan, who's counting on me. My mom cried, saying I'd ruin Ethan's future by chasing a fantasy of returning to college. I explained that Ethan supports my decision and plans to get loans and a job, but my dad dismissed it, saying Ethan's just being polite and doesn't mean it. My mom then said something painful. She's disappointed in me, thought I valued family first, and doesn't understand how I can be so cruel to Ethan. She claimed they sacrificed for me at Ethan's age, and now I'm shirking my turn. I lost it, yelling that they didn't sacrifice for me. They forced me to drop out for their financial stability. I said they prioritized everyone else's education over mine and have expected me to sacrifice for 8 years without caring about my dreams. My dad got in my face, shouting that I chose to help back then, and if I regret it, that's my problem. He said life means making tough choices for others, and I'm acting like a spoiled kid. I retorted that at 20, they guilted me into thinking I had no choice, and they'd never let Ethan drop out like they did me. I said they treat me like a solution to their problems, not a person with goals. The argument lasted an hour with us hurling hurtful words. My dad said if I stopped paying, I'm on my own forever. My mom kept crying, saying I'd destroy Ethan's future. I finally said I was done, my decision was final, and they had 2 months to figure out Ethan's spring semester because I'm stopping payments after December. I grabbed my jacket and left as they shouted after me. I've been replaying it for 24 hours, feeling awful but also angry at their words. My mom's claim that they sacrificed for me isn't true. They sacrificed my education. I wonder if I could have handled it better to avoid such a blowout, but I suspect they'd have reacted badly no matter how I said it, since they're so used to my income. I haven't heard from them since, but Ethan texted last night, saying my mom called him crying about the fight. She asked him to convince me to reconsider, but he told her he supports me, which upset her more. He feels bad about the family tension but stands by me and is confident he can cover his costs with loans and a job. He's meeting financial aid this week. I'm emotionally drained and dreading work tomorrow. I'm leaning toward moving out, as living here with this tension is unbearable, and I expect constant pressure to change my mind. Some of you said my parents might come around once they see I'm serious, and I hope so, but right now it feels like our relationship is broken. I love them, but I feel they've exploited me for years, and I'm struggling to reconcile those feelings. Thanks for your support. It helps to know others understand. I'll update in a few weeks as things progress with my family and school plans. Update 3. I didn't plan to update so soon, but something happened today that's left me rattled, and I need advice. It's been a week since my fight with my parents, and things at home have been tense. We've mostly avoided each other. They go to bed early when I'm home, and we don't talk when we cross paths. I thought they just needed time to process, but today, Ashley was waiting for me in the living room when I got home from work, which was unusual since she's typically in her room or with friends. She looked upset and asked to talk privately. In my room, she broke down crying, asking why I'm tearing the family apart. She said my mom's been crying daily since our fight. My dad's been moody and snapping at everyone, and the house feels tense. She's scared about Ethan's college and her own in 2 years. I tried explaining, as I did with my parents, but she begged me to keep helping Ethan since it's just 1 more year. Then she dropped a bombshell. She overheard our parents saying they might need to sell the house if I stop contributing, as they can't afford the mortgage and Ethan's tuition without me. They've been looking at smaller apartments, and my mom's considering a second job. I was stunned, as I didn't know my contributions were so critical. I thought my money was extra, not make or break for their home. Ashley begged me to reconsider, saying the family depends on me to fix this. I felt guilty and confused. Logically, I know it's unhealthy for my parents to rely on me so heavily, and they should have planned better instead of assuming I'd always pay. But emotionally, I feel awful thinking my choice could cost them their house and disrupt my siblings' lives. After Ashley left, I sat for an hour, torn. I wondered if I'm selfish and should keep helping until Ethan and Ashley finish college. What's a few more years compared to destabilizing my family? But then I pictured my life if I continue, nearing 35, stuck in the warehouse for over a decade, with little chance to start my career. I also questioned if my parents are exaggerating their financial woes to guilt me. They've never shared their budget or mortgage details, so I don't know if they truly need my money or just want it for convenience. I called my high school friend Jeremy for an outside perspective. I explained everything, and he said my parents have made me their financial crutch and are using guilt to keep me there. He said healthy families don't depend on one child to fund their lifestyle, and my parents should have worked toward independence instead of relying on me. He noted they never asked if I wanted to keep contributing indefinitely or discussed their plans for my siblings' colleges. They just assumed I'd pay. Jeremy said their potential need to sell the house isn't my burden, especially if they've been living beyond their means with my income. Families often downsize when finances change, and it's unfair to expect me to sacrifice my future to avoid that. Talking to Jeremy helped, but I'm still torn over Ashley's news about the house. I swing between feeling justified in prioritizing my future and guilty for potentially upending my family's stability. I've been the caretaker for so long that focusing on my needs feels wrong, even if I know it's healthy. I'm second-guessing my plan to stop paying for Ethan's college. Should I stick with it to return to school, or keep helping to prevent my family from losing their home and disrupting Ashley's schooling? I feel overwhelmed and don't know what's right. Any advice would be greatly appreciated.